This is TWiT.
So Microsoft gave us this list of requirements for Windows 11. And what they said was a modern dual-core 64-bit CPU. They never gave us a cutoff.
I know.
They never gave us a cutoff. None of us thought so you're not just
actually,
meaning the past
if you don't
couple
mind,
years.
Let me just add a little bit to that because I had made the point, I think on that day, that if you looked back, Windows 7, 8, and 10 each reduced the system requirements compared to its predecessor, which is probably speaks to the componentization and also maybe an acknowledgement on Microsoft's part that people aren't just, are not going to buy new PCs. I mean, they want to upgrade their existing computers. And the older requirements, it's funny to think back on this, literally 6 days ago. A 1 gigahertz PC, a single core 1 gigahertz PC, 2 gigs of RAM for a 32-bit system, which will not be supported on Windows 11. And I think it was actually probably as little as 16, but let's say 32 realistically gigabytes of storage, right? And that was our understanding of the picture 6 days ago.
Right. It was.
Right. And then the next 6 months happened.
I know. We always say Microsoft's terrible at communicating, but this could go in a Harvard business case study about the most terrible way you could have done this.
Yep. It's worse than that. There's a pathological quality to this. And I tweeted something to the effect of pause to consider the psychology of a company full of smart people that sat together in a room and said, listen, we're going to have really stringent hardware requirements for this thing. It's going to make people really mad.
Yeah.
Let's do it anyway, right? Yeah, let's do it.
Right.
And as we go out and do it, let's not tell people that we're doing it. Really incredible that they went out the gate, but they had to know. They had to know.
Here's what they could have done that would have made this so, well, there's many things they could have done, but one is make this about security from the start, right? Like say, okay, we know these are tougher rules around TPM and around the processor, and here is why. Look at all these Spectre and Meltdown and hacking and ransomware and this and that. Here's our diagram of how we think by changing these requirements, we will make you safer. If they had come at it like that, they would have lessened the outcry by a lot, not completely.
Joe, that's silly because you just described clear communication, and they're incapable of that.
I know. I was frustrated because they didn't even post the security blog post till day 2. I don't know why. Did they think that would give it more impact on the day after the launch? That should have been the one they came out of the gate with, right? Saying, okay, the requirements are more stringent, and here is exactly why. No, they didn't.
The whole thing is incredible. It's weird how this unfolded because in the beginning, because the CPU thing seemed reasonable, and Microsoft posted these support pages that said everything back to a 5th gen would be fine on Intel, and then equivalent on AMD, and then everything on Qualcomm, because that thing's only been around for a little while. And it seemed like a Saturday morning, I wrote an article about the outrage over TPM 2.0, that requirement. And because at the time, that seemed like it was the big sticking point. Man, was I wrong about that? Because as it turns out, the real line in the sand that Microsoft drew for Windows 11 was an 8th gen Intel CPU or equivalent on the AMD side. Now, just to put this in perspective for people, and I've gotten this wrong a few times, I want to make sure I get this right. 6th gen was the chipset that caused the Surface Gate problem when they had all those huge problems. I think 6th gen was when Spectre and Meltdown happened, but obviously subsequent generations of chips, whenever that started, they've been trying to mitigate the effects of those problems. 8th gen. The interesting thing about 8th gen is that this is when Intel, for free, basically moved from dual core to quad core in their mainstream chips. And one of the kind of common buying advice things you hear over the past couple of years is make sure you get an 8th gen or newer, because you just get for free. It doesn't hurt battery life. It's better performance. It's just kind of better across the board. It's interesting that they chose 8th gen, because I got to tell you, I have spent much of the past couple of weeks resuscitating PCs, bringing them up to date, which I only did just to see how that would work. And I have some interesting information about how Windows 10 works in that regard that who cares anymore, right? It's over. But the vast majority of computers I had in my house until fairly recently were 7th gen chips, the very ones that are not able to make the sleep as of today. And that's what I'm hearing. And I bet you are too, on Twitter, email, whatever. The big complainers typically, and I don't mean to say it like they're right to complain, but the biggest group of people that feel shut out from this are, of course, the ones that are one generation too old to get it. But I also think they're the biggest group. I think, for existing computers, they may literally represent the biggest part of the installed base.
This is pre-Haswell. Is that what it is?
This is, I don't know. It's post Haswell. I want to say that Skylake was 6th gen. I think 7th gen was Kaby Lake, whatever that was.
Kaby Lake.
Kaby Lake. And those are the ones that are not getting it, although that could change. We'll talk about that in a second. Because again, this thing has been a whirlwind. It's stupid. And then 8th gen, I don't remember the code name for that one, but 8th gen is when they switched to quad core on the core processors.
So the real issue, I think the reason it offends people is
yes.
There's so many, but go ahead.
I was going to say there's probably more than one, but
there's many, but is that there's no obvious cutoff
reason.
Yeah.
No.
Between
isn't.
the stuff they'll take and the stuff they won't take. It's not there's big differences between
Look,
the two,
if we can take a step back from being technology enthusiasts and being maybe a little too involved in this stuff and really think about it, you could make this argument, generally speaking, TPM makes sense, security.
I think you're right. If they had said, look, we want this to be more secure, we know there's issues. They didn't want to say that.
I think there's a deeper problem though at the root of this, and I think it has to do with the fact that the PC industry had fallen for several years in a row from a unit sales perspective. It had actually plateaued right before COVID happened. COVID saw an explosion of new PC sales, right, which will probably continue through at least part of this year. I think they understand that it's gonna tank after this, and I think part of their deal, part of their, I don't want to call it like collusion, but they got together with the PC makers and they were like, guys, look, we got to try to do something to save this. We're going to do Windows 11, not Windows 10 point something. We're going to have a new UI. We're going to make these hardware requirements, and people are going to have to buy new PCs if they get it.
Yeah,
and I'm sure there was some
said this the week before the announcement that this was about selling PCs.
Right.
I think it is. Yeah.
God, that's an awfully cynical point of view. Maybe I'm going to say give it a little bit nicer, because Chris Capicella is a nice guy. I want to give it a little bit nicer gloss, which is
well, by the way, sorry to interrupt, but Chris Capicella is also chief marketing officer, not chief financial officer. So
so he didn't make this up. I understand, and he's not an engineer.
No, I meant it's his idea. It's his role to put a happy face on this. Well, I think my more cynical view may be more of a bottom line view. But
how about this? And by the way, it gets you the same benefit. Historically, and we know this, people don't upgrade Windows. Windows 10 was an anomaly. Windows 10 was the big push from Microsoft to get everybody off the old insecure platform. So they really pushed the upgrade. But really, historically, it's never been you go from Vista to 7 or from 7 to 10. Historically, you buy a new PC to get it to do the upgrade, right?
That's right. That is true.
So it's not unreasonable for Microsoft to say this is as usual with Windows for new PCs.
There's just one problem. The reality is Microsoft actually explicitly has said this. Not that normal people out in the world would ever know about this, but during the Windows 10 life cycle, they really changed the way that Windows updates work, and Windows feature updates or version upgrades are now delivered in a more seamless fashion than they ever were before, especially the last couple. And this version
within a major version number, though.
Right, but this version is they and again I'm paraphrasing this, but they explicitly said this. This will be deployed as a Windows 10 cumulative update. It's or as a feature update. They didn't say feature update, but it's just another update you're going to get on your computer. So I agree with, you're right with what you said, but when Windows 10, you can call it an anomaly, but I would say it's just the new normal way of doing things. And when you upgrade from Windows 10 version 1709 to 2004, That's no different than going from 2004 to Windows 11.
But from Microsoft's point of view, we're being nice about this and we're upgrading you to 11, but you shouldn't expect that. What if if you don't have a compatible computer, we'll keep you secure through 2025. By the way, I think everybody agrees Daniel Rubino was saying on Sunday that they'll extend that. That'll go 2026, then
Maybe.
2027, almost certainly, because they've done that in the past.
Well, certainly for enterprises that want to pay.
Yeah.
Well, okay,
I don't think
at least through 2025. And if you want the new version of Windows and you have a computer that's a couple of years old, what's the problem? You buy a new computer in 2025.
Yeah, that's exactly right. They didn't play up the Windows 10 continued support enough either, right? Not only did they not be clear about the requirements, but then to soften that blow, they could have said, by the way, if you're on Windows 10, you can just stay on it for free till 2025. And by then you'll have a new PC, right? You probably will. And they could have done that. That would have been another good way to kind of ease people into this, right? Instead, they kind of hid the fact that there was going to be a Windows 10 21 H2 feature update. And they didn't really play up the end of life date of 2025.
By the way, you're right. To play devil's advocate, I suppose they could have. But I think the point of this event and the announcement and what's happening now is to get people who are interested in something new excited.
Yeah.
And, there are very pragmatic things that we want to know. And we later we'll talk about some of the questions we still have, especially around support. But I think, for the day, look, this thing's not coming out until October. And for some people, it's not coming out until next year. So we still have time for them to come up with more information and fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
But
what if Panos had said, this is the new version of Windows for new computers, but don't worry, if you have an older computer, we're going to keep Windows 10 up to date for years to come.
That would have been great.
And I think, honestly, that's kind of what Apple does. I mean, this is for new computers. Isn't that?
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, internally, that's what they thought. I'm sure they're shocked by this reaction.
Honestly, if you think about Android Works, it's very similar. You'll buy and I don't remember the exact numbers. It's not super important, but you buy an Android device from, say, Samsung, and they have some support lifecycle where they say, we will promise you'll get the next 3 version upgrades, version 12, 13, and 14 or whatever. But we will support you with security updates for 5 years or whatever the number is, right? So there will be years there where you're not getting the newest version of Android, but you are still being supported with security updates. And this kind of maps to that. Of course it does. I mean, Microsoft and everyone does it. They look at what others are doing and is this good or is this, and they try to find the thing that works. And Microsoft's situation's a little unique because of the enterprise market, and they always have to have the little asterisks or the slash, here it is for people, here it is for companies kind of thing. But there's a lot of this in Windows. We talked about the different ways you can upgrade parts of the system or apps are different now than they used to be. This is very similar to how mobile platforms work. So,
I would guess that the vast majority of people who don't listen to Windows Weekly, shockingly, they kind of get it. They go, this is for. I'll get this when I get a new computer because that's how I've always gotten the new version of Windows.
I honestly, I bet they're even more ambivalent.
It's
I bet
enthusiasts. They don't care. It's enthusiasts who are saying, I want to get Windows 11 on my PC, and it's only 2 years old, and what's the matter?
I know, but here's the problem, though. So when there's a big Apple event like WWDC, and Apple announces, new versions of their platforms, or they have a hardware announcement, like here's the new MacBook Pro, the new iMac, blah, 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 whatever. Yes, of course, there are always these little criticisms or concerns, but really what it really is a bunch of guys running around with flags screaming at the top of their lungs, they did it again, this is why I'm on this side of the fence, I love it here. And on the Windows side, we're all like, what the what is going on? And it stinks because Windows has been, I feel, undervalued for too many years. They're finally doing something. There's good reason to be excited by what we're seeing here. And they have to kind of ruin it by not being clear, and it makes them sound or seem deceptive.
It does.
Like they're hiding something.
Yeah, and unfortunately, like they are hiding something because, like I said, bunch of smart people in a room. They knew this was going to be a storm of controversy, and they're let's go with it.
Saying that's what I'm saying is I bet they didn't. I bet they thought,
they had to have.
Really?
Had to have. Yeah.
But they just thought, this is weird. Of course, this
There
is
was
how
a
we've always
Richard
done it.
Clark in there warning them, guys, there's a problem coming. You got to pay attention.
Yellow cake.
I wonder, though. I do wonder
exactly.
because, you know what? If you knew, think about this. If you knew this was going to be a PR nightmare, you'd be really well equipped for this, right? You'd have talking points. You'd have extra documents you can point people to. You wouldn't have every employee on Windows. Wait, you wouldn't have everybody giving different answers on Twitter to individual people, which are conflicting with each other, right?
No, but that doesn't mean there weren't people in the company going, somebody, hello? Is no one else seeing this? I mean, at some point, there's a decision-making level where they signed off on this, and my point is they had to have known. Within Windows or within Microsoft, of course, there are people that have different access to information, and they're just excited about what they're doing or what they know about it. And then the truth comes out, and they're like, wait a minute. And then, there'll be a little investigation or, whatever, however they look at this, triage the problem. And it's like, man, we should have really done better with this. But how many times do we they never do better. Like, why?
No. And I'll tell you, so we don't still have the answer. Like, that's the other thing.
That's
like,
true.
do we have an answer right now? Like, if somebody says to you, so which processor is the cutoff? We don't know.
Well, right now, it is still 8th generation. However, by the way, this
7, right?
Right. So actually, I will say this. Look, we have a rich history. Just talk Windows 10, right? Just in the past 6 years.
Yeah.
Some feature update will come out. All of a sudden, Kindles are crashing, PCs, or these stupid problems are happening. It's like, how did this get through the cracks and blah blah blah. These guys never once stood up and said, "We're sorry. We're sorry. We screwed up." What they say is they bring out John Cable, that poor guy, I assume.
He's going to write a blog. John, I got to write a blog.
They're like, the process works. Mm-hmm. This just proves everything's great. This has been the most successful deployment of any version of Windows ever.
John, we're going to want you to spend the weekend writing a blog post.
That guy must be in that place from One Flew Over a Cuckoo's Nest now. But here's the thing. This time, I got to give them credit for this. They came out. They actually apologized. They have never done that. Never done that. And they said, we will consider, based on the feedback we get during the beta, because they're going to allow people in with older chipsets, whether to include specifically 7th generation Intel and the equivalent AMD chipset. I don't remember the version over there, sorry. And it is inconceivable that they won't, right? You cannot throw that bone out now and not do it. I based on, again, this is completely anecdotal, just based on the feedback I get, based on the PCs I've seen here in my own home, of which I could build literally a Ford out of. 7th gen to me seems like the volume. And I think that will soothe a lot of hurt feelings.